So this is, you may be pleased to know, this is the last table leg, okay? And it's when we start to really pull all the other table legs together. So this morning we're going to be looking at core values and then your action plans and goal settings. So your action plans and goal setting is everything, so you know what you're doing and how you're going to do it and what the first step is. Who knows what their core values are?
I know one of them.
Okay, yeah. So I find it really interesting when, and I say really interesting, I didn't know what my core values were until a few years ago. But your core values are like your moral compass. They give you your steering and direction through life. Now, would you go out on the hill in the mist without a compass and a map? You wouldn't, would you? Or you'd get lost if you did. And yet, we're trying to navigate our way through life and we don't know what our moral compass is. So we're going to really explore that this morning to start with. Because I talked to a few people yesterday about it, understanding, and you kind of mentioned this, Lou, who you want to be. That's the first step, massive step in working out what you want to do. And a lot of people talked about self-confidence and self-worth. How often do we look for our self-confidence and self-worth from other people? We want recognition, or we want, I don't want to say praise, but that sort of, that's the word, yeah, from other people that we're doing this right, or, and that's what gives us confidence. But we've already established that other people's behaviour is out of our control. So that means we're putting our own self-worth in the hands of something that's out of our control. When we understand our core values, if we can get to the end of each day and say, have I stayed true to my core values today? If the answer is yes, you create your own evidence of confidence and self-esteem, because you can get to the end of the day and go, I am being the person I want to be. If the answer is no, which it might be sometimes, then okay, we know we can't change the past, we can change what we do in the future. So the question then is, what can I do tomorrow to make sure I do stay in line with my core values? So your core values are how you want to live your life, the kind of person you want to be, and the principles you want to stand for. So how you want to live your life, the kind of person you want to be, and the principles you want to stand for. And yet we don't know what our core values are a lot of the time. So if we don't know what they are, we don't know how we want to live our life. We don't know the kind of person we want to be, and we don't know the principles we want to stand for. Now, I'm guessing you probably do know them, but maybe you haven't put any conscious thought into them. Okay? So, one other thing, just on that conscious thought bit, your core values are like your path through life. So like when I said, it's how you navigate through life. Sometimes we stray off that path, and that's when life can start to feel a bit out of balance. Who feels a bit out of balance right now? Yep. So it's back to this conscious thing. We have to make a conscious effort to get ourselves back on track. So not knowing where to start, a great starting point is working out your core values, how you want to live your life, the kind of person you want to be, and the principles you want to stand for. That can start giving you direction. So we said, I've got to go back a bit. We said it's like your moral compass, yeah? So you can only have 4 core values. Now that right now might seem like too much, but it's your compass. On the compass, you have a north, an east, a south, and a west. You don't invent another point on the compass as in another major north, east, south, or west. That are the 4 points. There are lots of other points on the compass that come into it. We'll talk about them in a minute. They're like your core value add-ons. So things that are really important in your life But for your steering and direction through life, 4 core values. Okay, so if I share with you mine, so mine are respect, freedom, reliability, oh God, spelling, thank you, and kind. Now, when I first started looking at my core values, I had way more than 4 that I wanted to put down. But what I found is, and one thing I've got to say, is what you put down this morning isn't the values that you've now got to live the rest of your life for, right? They change. Mine have changed as my life changes, my core values have changed. Also, everything we do this morning warrants way more time than we've got this morning. This is absolutely sort of the skimming the surface. So I'd really recommend to you all that you go home and you put a bit more time into this. If I was working with someone on a one-to-one basis, I'd probably do an hour a week for 8 weeks to do what we're doing today with a group of 13 of you, okay? So we're not going to do it justice, but we're going to plant the seed and give you the idea, okay? And I'll give you all a list of core values in a minute to sort of give you a bit more inspiration for what yours might be. But if I can just explain a little bit more about these first. So first up, your core values affect every single decision you make. Big ones, massive ones, and little ones. So to give you an example, recently a friend of mine asked me to go around for coffee that evening. And you know what, as the day went on, I was getting knackered, I was tired, and I really didn't want to go. And I was wasting, back to our energy from the other day, a whole heap of energy stressing over the decision, oh, I should go because I've said I would, but oh, I don't want to go because I'm knackered. And I was wasting all this energy stressing on whether I went or whether I didn't. Came back to my core values. One of my core values is reliability. So don't even think about it, just go. Just go. Because it's more important to me to stay true to my core values than it is to go to bed early. So I stopped wasting any energy, which actually helped me feel less knackered anyway. Still went round to my mates, just said to her, I'm not going to stay that long because I'm tired, but I still wanted to come round for coffee. So it just took any stress, hassle, wasting of energy out of the decision, and I knew what I had to do. On a much bigger level, you know, when I said about when I went to the Alps on Tuesday night after getting kicked off the squad, and the first mountain we summited, I stood on the top of the mountain and I held my arms out and I looked at the whole mountain range in front of me and I was just like, this is me, this is me. And I suddenly realised for the last 4 years, I hadn't been staying true to my core value of freedom. Because when I was on the squad, everything was being controlled. Everything I ate, when I trained, when I slept, I even had to pee into a bottle every morning so they could measure my pee, you know. Everything was controlled. And I was like, oh my God, I've been out of sync with my core values. And our core values, you know, we said about a compass. Compass works on a magnetic field, doesn't it? So when we're out of sync, it kind of causes this imbalance. And that's when life can feel out of balance. So I've got a friend whose core value is organised. And when we've gone away, they have all their socks lined up in the drawer in really neat pairs. I'm like, what? Like, what a waste of time, you know? My core value is freedom. So like my sock drawer is just random socks all over, probably mixed in with the pants and I don't know, probably the eggs as well or something like that, you know? And I used to think they're a complete idiot. And then you kind of go, actually, no, it's just, we chatted through core values and I was like, no, it's not that you're an idiot. It's just that we clash on this core value. So it can be really interesting in managing yourself and managing other people as well. Because understanding, then it might not be that they're an idiot. It might not be that you're an idiot. It's just you've got different core values. So, I said about your core value add-ons. So I really struggled when I first started doing this because I was like, well, the animals are so important to me. Like, that's got to be a core value. Physicality, training, got to be... but that's where your add-ons come in. So they're not like my moral compass, but they're things that are really important to me. So like my 4 core value add-ons are animals, outside, like fresh air, being outdoors, physicality, and fun. So if you've got something going, oh, I can't decide, maybe sort of think about what is your moral compass and what are your core value add-ons. Your core values aren't what's going on right now, it's what you want to be going on. So how you want to live your life, the kind of person you want to be, the principles you want to stand for. The whole point in this is identifying if actually you're not living by those values at the minute. Then we start to identify what our goals need to be to try and get you back on that path. Yeah, so that's where it doesn't have to be where you are now, it's kind of what you want. So I'm going to give you a list of core values just to help you along and give you a bit of inspiration. What I would say, core values can be absolutely anything. They are your core values. And if you're finding, you'll look at all of these and goes, well, yeah, that's a really important quality. That's a really important quality. Put them all down and then start to prioritise. Kind of actually, well, is that one more important than that one? Sorry. So use it as a starting point to just start exploring what you think your core values might be. Okay? If you can then, when you get your 4, can you write them down on a fresh bit of paper in your notepads? Write them down in the middle of the bit of paper. Like I say, don't worry if you're sitting there going, oh, I'm not sure. Like, just have something to play with now, because it's almost like what we did with the reframing. We're going to sort of explore what to do with it, and then if you want to put more work into it, you can do. Hopefully you will. So we're going to do a little kind of exercise with those 4 core values now. So on the left-hand side of your page, beside each one, if you can score it on a scale of 1 to 10 on how important it is to you. And by that, they can all be a 10, they could all be a 1. It's not a case of one's got to be more important than the other. Just score each one individually on a scale of 1 to 10 as to how important it is to you. Who's got 4 10s down? Cool. If you haven't got 4 10s down, they're probably not your right core values. Because your core values should be 10 out of 10 important to you. It's your moral compass. It's your steering and direction through life. If it's not a 10, it's not the right core value. Okay? So they should be like 100% important to you. Make sense? Yes. Okay, cool. Right, now on the right-hand side of the page, so they're still important to you. I'm guessing you've all scored them pretty high. Okay, so it's still a good starting point to work from. On the right-hand side of the page, score each one on a scale of 1 to 10, how much you're living your life right now in line with that core value. Good. What did you notice?
Big difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Way off.
Yep.
Different in some, but not in others.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And whatever you've got, what a great starting point. So again, your core values are your moral compass. They give you your steering and direction through life. if you haven't scored them highly as to how much you're living your life in line with them, it means we're veering off that path that you want to take through life. So it's a great starting point for our goal setting action plans at putting goals in place that are going to help bring you back in alignment with your core values. So we start the whole goal setting thing with core values, because by knowing what your core values are, it gives you way more chance of setting goals that are fulfilling, purposeful, and that you're going to have motivation for. Because if you're not motivated for a goal, chances are you're not going to do it. So when we come to do the goal setting bit, if you come in, oh yeah, I think I might do that, we're probably going to pull you up on it because that's not convincing. But keeping them in line with your core values, because your core values matter. That's why I come back to saying you should be scoring them all 10 out of 10. So if you're scoring them 10 out of 10, there is your motivation to want to put the goals in place. And the important bit isn't the goal. The important bit is the healthy habits, or the habits that the goal creates. So, for example, if one of your core values was health and well-being, you might set the goal of running a marathon. It's not the marathon that's the important bit. It's the fact that you then start running 1K tomorrow, 2K the following week. You're running 3 or 4 times a week. The habit, and we've talked about habits and then how they become ingrained and an automatic, and the impact that habit can have on your mental well-being. So the goal isn't the important bit. It's the habit that goal creates. But the starting point is getting a goal that's in line with your core values. Make sense? Cool. So keep those core values in mind, and we're going to look at goals. This is a bucket full of tennis balls. Is the bucket full?
No.
What else can go in there?
Smaller things.
Like?
Sand.
Like what?
Sand.
Sand. Is there something a bit bigger than that first?
Marbles.
Pebbles, marbles, yeah. Right, so we'll put as many as we can. I'm not going to do the whole bucket because we might be here a long time. Is it now full? No. What else can we put in?
Water.
Sand. Yeah. So we can put I've got my colours all wrong here, haven't I? We can put in our sand. Is the bucket now full?
No.
What can we put in? Water. Absolutely. Is it now full?
Yes.
Yes. Life is exactly the same with our goals, right? We have our big tennis balls, which is generally around career, relationships, money, but we also have our little grains of sand. You know the guy I told you about where he set the goal of taking his kids to the aqua park? That was a little grain of sand, but that then impacted on his marbles. Sounds wrong. That then impacted on his tennis balls, and sounds even worse. That then impacted on his bucket. That sounds okay. So when we come to do the goals, it's easy to fall into the trap of looking at the tennis balls, right? But often we need to start with the grains of sand. And remember what we said about, George, you've said it a number of times, it becomes too overwhelming. Yeah. Looking at the tennis balls can be too overwhelming, so we don't do anything. But when we start with a grain of sand, that feels achievable. So we feel like we can do it. And then the grain of sand can lead on to a lot more other stuff. Okay? So when we come to do goals, don't just think big stuff. What do I do next? I'm just going to ask you to do something very, very quickly to just help you think of goals as well. Now, please don't procrastinate on this as well. Anyone done the Wheel of Life before?
What, sorry?
Wheel of Life? Okay, so think of it like a chocolate orange, with all your different segments. Each segment is a different segment of your life. So if I asked you, how's life? On a scale of 1 to 10, how's life? It's really hard to say life as a whole, isn't it? Because there'll be some bits that might be pretty crap right now that you're scoring maybe a 1, and there'll be some bits that might be really good. So how can you give life as a whole 1 score? So what the Wheel of Life does is it breaks it down into the different sections. Now I've written some sections on, but this is your life. I've also written some other suggestions down the bottom. So if you want to change anything, feel free to cross these ones out and put another one in. And do this quickly. Don't overthink it, right? This is a gut reaction. So like 60 seconds, 2 minutes tops on this. All I'm going to ask you to do is, get a pen. In each section, you draw a line across where you think you are. So 0 is the middle, pretty crap. 10 is the outside, bushka, couldn't be better, okay? And you just draw a line across and you go around each segment and draw a line across. The absolute aim is not to get a balanced wheel because life isn't balanced. So don't think, or no, I should say life isn't smooth, is it? So don't think if you're all wiggledy-piggledy that, you know, that's a big no-no. Absolutely not. Life is meant to be higgledy-piggledy. This is just a reflection to start giving you a bit of reflection time, thinking time about what areas would be good for you to work on with your goal. Okay? So just, again, like I say, really quick. Don't overthink it because otherwise it could take you weeks. So guys, just again, a bit of clarity. This is what's going on right now. This isn't what you want. This is what is going on for you right now. All good? Right, we're nearly there. So this is where we start to take what you've done with your core values, what you've got with your Wheel of Life, and we're going to start pulling them together to find some meaningful and purposeful goals. It's about finding something that you are going to do in the next 7 to 10 days that will move you one step forward. Because we're not looking at 3 months, 6 months, 3 years ahead, because that can be too overwhelming. To keep the momentum going from this week, it's what you can start in the next 7 to 10 days. And you might have a midterm goal. You might have a next step after that as well. This is just for each idea, thought you come up with. Use this as a checklist to see if it's a good goal to have in place. What's the first one?
Sensible.
No.
Specific.
No.
Situation.
Specific. That's it. So if I said my goal is I want to be happier. Well, what does happy look like? You know, how do you know when you're happy? It's really hard to know whether you've achieved it or not. I use the goal of our friend who went to the aqua park. I am going to go to the aqua park on Saturday with my kids for an hour. That's specific. He knows whether he's done it or not. Okay, so really important that it's specific. Second one.
Measurable.
Measurable. So, back to the aqua park. I am going to go to the aqua park on Saturday with my kids. You absolutely know whether you have or haven't done it. If it's something like, I want to be fitter, I want to be happier, how do you measure that? How do you know when you're there? So, specific and measurable. Really important, okay? The A?
Achievable.
No! Now, it often is achievable, but I say it's a waste of a letter, right? Because what's R?
Realistic.
Realistic. So, realistic and achievable, kind of the same thing, aren't they? So let's not waste it, and let's make the A accountable. If you tell someone you're going to do it, there is a much better chance that you achieve it. So accountability, tell your mum, your dad, your kid, your partner. If nothing else, tell yourself, write it out and stick it on your fridge. That's your accountability. Makes it way more likely you will do it. Realistic? We said about, you set the goal of running a marathon. If you said, right, I'm going to run a marathon and by next weekend I'm going to be doing 26 miles every day. Okay, chances are you probably wouldn't even manage to do it one day, but if you did, you're going to be that broken, you're sure as hell not going to want to do it ever again, are you? But if you say, I'm going to do 1K 3 times a week for the first week, oh, how good do I feel because I've achieved my goal. Right, next week I'm going to try and do 2K 3 times a week. how good do I feel because I've achieved my goal? So by keeping it realistic, gives you way more chance of success. Last one. Time relevant. If you said, I'm going to run a marathon sometime, how easy is it to go, oh, I'll do it next week, do it next month. Oh, actually, I've lost the motivation now. So it's really important that it's kind of on Tuesday I am going to. What's even better if it's by the end of next week I will have. Because the one downside with on Tuesday I'm going to is if something happens that means you can't do it, as does happen in life, it then feels like you failed. So we'll use the marathon one as an example. Right, I'm going to start by running 3 times a week. I am going to run on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then actually something happens and you can't. By next Sunday, I will have run 3 times a week. It ties you down to having like a deadline, but it gives you a bit of flexibility to allow for life. Okay? Make sense? A lot of information this morning, I know, but just work with it because this is all stuff that you can use when we go break down into our groups. Okay? One last bit. We've already said it. You've got to want it. You know, so what we're going to do tomorrow morning when we wrap things up is I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do? When are you going to do it? And what will it bring you? If there's things, maybes, possibly, perhaps in your language, I'll be gunning for you. Right, you got to want it. Yep, I am going to do this because it will bring me this and I really want that. So there is no doubt in my mind that I'm doing it. So make sure you got the motivation for it. 2 questions. We were talking, right. Gemma, you're a perfect example.
Oh.
Gemma got up this morning, yeah? And like, she's now a bright little shining star rather than the slightly sleepy teddy bear that she was yesterday morning, okay? So we were talking about this on our boat. And we said, right, what she likes to do is lie in bed, have a cup of tea, but then wakes up sleepy, will go to work sleepy, feels a bit shit, okay? So we said, okay, what about if you got up an hour earlier and you went and had your cup of tea, did some yoga, you felt more awake, went to work. So what are the consequences of doing it? What did you say? Can you remember? Probably not. Oh, I can remember. So it was, I'm going to feel more awake, which means I'll be more productive. It'll be better for my mental health. I'll have more self-esteem. Like, I'll feel better about myself because I feel awake and alive and energy. What are the consequences of not? I can't remember your exact words. Can you? Who was in my boat? Lou and Stu. Can you remember?
Kind of like self-deprecating. Like,
Yeah,
That was
I
it.
feel like I'd failed, feel like it was a piece of shit,
so
as usual, couldn't do it anyway, there you go, justified hating myself.
Right? So, what are the consequences of doing it? What are the consequences of not? You ask yourself those 2 questions. Like, you're going to get out of bed, aren't you? Like, you're going to have the motivation because it's like, what? I've got the choice of either feeling awesome about myself or feeling like I hate myself. And that, like, is really lying in bed for another hour or even 30 minutes worth hating myself? I'm getting out. So those 2 questions, like when you start getting your goals, ask yourself those. Last bit, I heard this the other day and I really liked it. The 80-20 rule. So we're not looking for perfection. George, we were talking about this yesterday, weren't we, with your energy drinks. When we were chatting through, and as you know, I may have been trying to persuade George to stop taking his energy drinks, but when I chatted things through with him, actually the rest of his diet and his lifestyle is really healthy. And he's made so many massive changes already and doing so well. Actually pushing for 100% can be too much. So we're not looking for perfection. Like, if we're getting 80%, if you're 80% committed to this happening, like, don't worry about a little bit of it not happening. That's okay. So I kind of quite like that idea. I think it takes the pressure off. So again, you might not like that. You might want to be, I'm in, I'm 100%. But, you know, it's sometimes I want to run 3 times a week. Oh, shit, this week I've only run twice a week. Well, twice a week is still twice better than what you were doing. So don't beat yourself up if you don't achieve perfection.